The Ukraine war. Has Putin lost his mind? I mean, first of all, he goes and he raids. Obviously, he's going to take over Ukraine, bombs out a bit in Kiev, and now withdraws to the east. Now he's taking, this week, Donbas region will fall. It'll be taken, and his deadline is the 9th of May. He must be crazy, Doesn't he know the repercussions? I think he does. Isn't the world maybe looking at this thing wrong? Everyone's looking and thinking Ukraine, he's coming for Ukraine, human rights and all of these things, which we know are, anyway, it's war. But wouldn't he have thought this through? I mean, he came into power in 2000, and he's run built up one of the three largest armies in the world, most formidable economies. He's been running around building relationships with countries all around the world, with Pakistan, now with India, with Syria, all over, every single place that NATO and the West has messed up, he's gone and formed alliances. And would he not have thought this through? And we're looking and thinking, oh, well, now Putin's got to go, and the world's thinking Putin's got to go. Wouldn't he have understood that that would be the implications? He had seen Gaddafi, he'd seen Hussein, he had seen Saddam, bin Laden. He would have worked this out. He would have had experts working out. So in other words, the question is, what is his motive? Is his motive just to take now the Donbas region and then to take Ukraine to do what? Okay, it is the conduit to the power from Russia to Europe, of course, very strategic, both for NATO and for Russia. Probably the reason why NATO and America are so bloody keen to jump in. I mean, we see what's happening in Israel at the moment. 21 Palestinians killed in the last 21 days. Wow, one a day. Because they are whining because of more land invasions. Taking of land. And taking of land, what does that mean? It means that, hey, you guys that are living here, please move, because a couple of Jewish people are going to be coming here, living here next week. That's what land invasion. We just moved the fence, the border. And they just take the land, and then these people say, what, I want my house. Could you imagine someone coming to your house and saying, sorry guys, do you mind moving? We had the land invasions in South Africa, pre-apartheid or during apartheid, and there was a global outcry. Israel is doing it, no one is thinking. I've got nothing against Israel or the Jews. What a pleasure. But I mean, if wrong is wrong, let's turn around and keep one common lens through which we view hostilities and terrorism. So yeah, so the situation in the Arabs, let's just go there again. It's not like Ukraine, because Palestinians after the Second World War, all of a sudden they arrived, they formed the State of Israel, and they came and said, okay, 700, all you Palestinians, bye, move out. Where to? No, move out. 700,000 people were killed in that intifada, so they call it. 700, but the world doesn't really know about that. And the Palestinians have been fighting for their country back since. And it's just like, brush them under the carpet. Why? Because they've got nothing. They've got no money. They've got no power. They've got no resources. They're not strategic. So going back to Ukraine and back to Putin. So was he going to take Ukraine? Well, if he does, and then what? He's going to have NATO on his border for the rest of eternity, turning around incursions. He's going to have civilian uprising and revolts and re-revolts and everything, of people fighting backwards and forwards. It could not be controlled. It would have to be tighter than China to be controlled. I don't think he was coming for Ukraine. Ukraine was a conduit and a strategic conduit. It was the thing that gave him the power of control. So let's just have a look at his situation. He's got power and gas that he supplies to Europe, which supplies almost 30 to 40% of the power to Europe. He supplies oil, okay? Food coming out of Ukraine has got the whole world whining and crying because it's going to starve in a year's time. Because Ukraine produces 30% of the world's grains and cooking oils, stuff like that, high percentages, massive chunks. of what the world needs simply to survive. So now he takes that. Now the farmers at the moment are busy fighting wars instead of reaping their land, so food is not being produced, and if they do produce, they've got to get it out. And the Black Sea was the conduit before, the only port. Oddessa is in the firing line. Oddessa will go by the 9th of May. It has to, from Putin's point of view, he has to block off Ukraine from the Black Sea. From Ukraine's point of view, no ways on earth should they let it block it off. That's their perspective. But he has to take the port. And he will take the port because it will be strategic for the bigger objective, which is to face NATO and the West. And why is he doing that? Does he just want to go to war with the West? I don't think it's as simple as that. He has formed alliances with China, right? So we have the second largest economy with one of the most powerful countries and most aggressive countries, well now as it seems. Based on history, the logic of why he's aggressive is justified. It is really justified, we have to say that. That the logic, he has been treated like, what was her name, Cinderella. He's been treated badly by NATO. He's been sitting in the corner of Mr. Putin and shut the fuck up. And he's not doing this. And he said he has come back. I mean, wasn't it Yeltsin who said, we will be back? And he is back. But he knows he cannot stop on his border, and probably not even on the Baltic states or the previous USSR republics. He can't even stop there, because if he stops there, he's going to have, well, then Poland will still be there, but otherwise Germany and the rest of the world baying at his thing for eternity. But he has seen that with the power with China, China with alliances with Pakistan, him with Iran, with India, which means the whole of Asia, mainland Asia, is one united force. What does that mean? It means that the economy, before up until now, the world's economy and all interest and focus and power was vested in the United States and Europe. It was the Atlantic. Around the Atlantic, the Northern Atlantic Treaty Organization was basically the two, and the EU and the States from an economic perspective. That is now shifting. China is the second biggest economy. China with Russia. So controlling the power, controlling food lines, which dictates economies and will destroy and build countries, linking in the populations of India and Pakistan, seeing the turmoil in Sri Lanka, seeing what's happening in the Middle East, knowing that a large chunk of South America will sit and come towards him. Africa, there's no question, will be China and Russia. The world's economic, core strategic focus and economic focus is shifting from Europe and the West to Asia. So at the end of this whole game, America and Europe will be side players. They will not be the main thrust of the economy. They will be not the main thrust of interest and direction of planet Earth. And that is what we're talking about. I cannot believe that these guys sitting in offices working for NATO and are not looking at this, or are they just hoping, or they're just maybe just shutting up and not telling all the rest of us. Please God. But this war is not about Ukraine. And it's not even about Europe. It's about shifting the paradigm of planet Earth. It's about shifting our entire lives into a more structured way, or a more structured way like China or Russia, or we will simply really become the pantries. We will become the supply mines of this major economy, and actually there's nothing we can do about it. It's started happening long before this war. Business was shifting, the world economy was shifting to China. America couldn't compete. To compete, they'd have to be paying salaries equivalent to Chinese. It couldn't happen. They'd have to lower their lifestyles. Everything would have to change to compete, to be competitive on the global stage. China could take them anytime they like and produce twice as much. So I don't think the shift is new. And the problem is, I think, is that the West has been treating these two major players like irritations, like cousins that are just irritations, from the poor side of town. what an underestimation. And now they're running around, I mean, saying, making little idle, trivial, speeches. No, we frown on that. We do not condone that or condemn that. And this is getting interesting.